Alright, just wanted to point out just a few more things here that I noticed about the game yesterday. Back to the Future Day. Interesting, the Royals lost 1-7 or 7-1 on a day where there's 71 days remaining and it's the 294th day. I also talked a ton about 71 over and over in the previous video, so not going to go that into detail with it, but the pitcher also pitched for 7.2 innings, so I guess 7 innings or whatever, but he only allowed one hit in the first 7 innings, so 7-1. And then, of course, Perez scored the Royals' only run, and I talked about Perez was the guy who dressed as the Pope, caught Salvador Perez's ball. Salvador Perez in Gematria adds up to 162. Just like the amount of regular season games they play in the Major League Baseball adds up to 162. Interesting, I've talked about how it all ties into the Philadelphia train wreck. If you go from the Philadelphia train wreck to that day, it is a span of 162 days, also 5 months, 9 days. Interesting because Kansas City Royals and Toronto Blue Jays both add up to 212 and 59. But anyway, I want to point this out again really. October 21st is literally there's 71 days remaining. And there's also Back to the Future Day. Back to the Future Day adds up to 71. Also, Back to the Future 2 adds up to 194. And the reason that is interesting is because the 194th day of the year is July 13th, with 171 remaining. Also, when the time machine gets destroyed by the train at the end of part 3, it's on Eastwood Ravine is where the sign says right by the train track or whatever. Eastwood Ravine adds up to 171. Anyway, for some reason it made me think of this too. In part 3, when they use the train to push the DeLorean to get it to go back to 1985, the train is number 131. Bill Murray adds up to 131. I've talked about that a lot, dealing with Space Jam and time travel and whatnot. But if you do, or the guy who cursed the Cubs, if you do his name in Gematria, it adds up to 131. And literally train 131 adds up to the 133 again, just like I talked about. That's the same day that Pope Francis became the Pope. I mean, a few other interesting things. Just weird stuff I typed in, like Pope Francis is the Antichrist. That adds up to 133. I mean, what are the odds of that? 300, 6 score, and 6. The mark of the beast adds up to 133. Also then, this Cubs loss, it made them 4-5 in the playoffs. So another 45 reference. I talked about how Cubs adds up to 45, Miami adds up to 45, they play at Wrigley Field, Wrigley adds up to 45. The curse of the Billy Goat began in the 1945 World Series, and the guy, Billy Cianis, who cursed the Cubs, died exactly to the day today, 45 years ago. But I don't know if you watched this game, but I watched like every one of these games, and they were completely rigged. There was parts in the games. Can't even remember what game it was. The one where the loose ball, where the ball got past the catcher and the Mets scored a run or whatever. They foreshadowed it like the 3 pitches right before it. He kept dropping the ball and whatever. And they were basically telling you what was going to happen. It was ridiculous. The one guy struck out, and then the ball got away, and then the guy scored. And then in this game even, I think it was Schwarber or whatever, he dove for the ball for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Like, why would he? It was just ridiculous. Go back and watch it. It's ridiculous. He dove for no reason, and it screwed everything all up. But they also, I said to watch out for the 4th inning, because the curse began in the 4th inning of Game 4, when Detroit scored 4 runs. And they even set it up like they almost made it look like number 44 was going to hit a grand slam in the 4th inning. But then whatever, it didn't happen. But this whole inning started off with a leadoff double and it was on the 46th pitch of the game, which Chicago adds up to 46. The date numerology of that day, 10 plus 21 plus 15 is 46. Chicago Cubs adds up to 46. So just some interesting things. So the Cubs are actually still cursed, or Chicago Cubs are still cursed. So who knows? I guess we can look to the future for some significant things. But when you think of Back to the Future, then it's interesting that in Back to the Future they would say the Cubs are going to sweep to win, and then the Cubs ended up getting swept. So it's kind of like the mirror, and I've talked about mirrors all the time, like the mirror days. They like to do things a lot like backwards. Even like 171 is literally the mirrors of 17 and 71. It's goes both ways. And check out the word mirror. I did mirror in Gematria, 91 and 46, just like Chicago Cubs. So they literally mirrored it. The mirror is the same as Chicago Cubs. Interesting too, in the Curse of the Billy Goat, they lost to Detroit. Detroit even adds up to 91. And I know I've did this tons of times before, but I want to re-show it. The word 91 is 121 and also 49, just like the word revelation. So, interesting. The word Valentine's also adds up to 121. Well, with the S exception, it's actually 49 as well. But this website doesn't do that, so just pointing that out. Interesting, because in Ghostbusters 2, in the very beginning, the lady tells Bill Murray on that talk show that the end of the world is going to be on Valentine's of the year 2016. Ghostbusters 2 adds up to 191. And the reason I even bring this back up is because since Valentine's Day of last year, I've talked about the Michael Jordan, Space Jam, whatever connection. Space Jam even had the 923s in it, whatever. Michael Jordan quit basketball to go play baseball, so it even ties into the World Series a tiny bit, just from the baseball, whatever. But Space Jam literally will be... It came out on November 15th, 1996. So that it will be the 19th anniversary this year on November 15th. And November 15th to Valentine's Day next year is a span. It's 91 days before. A few more things I found. Philadelphia train crash in Gematria is 113. Just like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is even 52 years old. I said the 52nd day. Or the 122nd day is 5-2. Princess Charlotte was born on 5-2. Michael Jordan owns the Charlotte Hornets. Even Michael Jordan in Pythagorean Gematria, Michael Jordan adds up to 59, just like Kansas City Royals. Well, also Toronto Blue Jays. I forgot to mention too, Philadelphia train crash. In simple Gematria is 212, just like Kansas City Royals, just like Toronto Blue Jays. The game last night was 162 days after the Philadelphia train wreck. I'm sorry to lose you here. I also think maybe the World Series might end on November 3rd, 11-3. Anyway, going back to the Future and the mirror of the Cubs, it just reminds me, the reason I said Kansas City I think is going to win it all is because they won the World Series in 1985, the same year that Back to the Future ends on October 27th. But in order to make the World Series, the Royals came back from a 3-1 deficit against Toronto. And Toronto won Game 1, Game 2. Kansas City won Game 3. Toronto won Game 4. Kansas City Game 5. Kansas City Game 6. Kansas City Game 7. This year, it is the exact opposite. Kansas City won Game 1. Kansas City won Game 2. They lost Game 3. They won Game 4. They won Game 5. They lost Game 5. So now we're going into Game 6. And on here, they won in the year 1985. So who knows? I could be completely wrong. Maybe they're just mirroring it. Just a thought. Now, I guess we'll see what happens. I still think Kansas City is going to win it all, just because of their connection to Pope Francis. Seems like it's tied into the Philadelphia train wreck, but Pope Francis is a big part of that as well. Even look at in the 1985 season, the Royals had a record of 91-71. But anyway, I looked up the New York Mets as well, and so the last time they won the World Series was in 1986. And the first thing I noticed is that they played the Red Sox, and the Red Sox lost to what they said is because of the curse of the Bambino. And remember how when the Cubs were down 3-0 against the Mets, they compared them. They said, will they be the Red Sox in 2004 and come back from it, whatever, and win it all or whatever, blah, blah, blah. They compared them to the Red Sox. It was kind of the same situation, but the curse of the Bambino was basically the Red Sox got rid of Babe Ruth, and then they went through an 86-year period from 1918 until 2004, the year that they talked about the Red Sox, comparing them to the Cubs or whatever. But it was an 86-year span. So, I mean, literally, just think about it. They didn't win for 86 years, and then this was one of the big deals where they really said it was the curse of the Bambino in the 1986 World Series. This was in 1918 was when this started. 1918 to 1986 is a span of 68 years, the mirror of 86. So interesting, a team that actually had code into it lost. So, I mean, who knows? The coding's there. Like I said, it's just sometimes I don't know the direction completely. And interesting, too, and Game 6 was the big game where the Mets were supposed to lose the World Series and the Red Sox were supposed to break the curse. But this guy right here allowed a ground ball to go through, and they ended up losing Game 6. But his name in Gematria, Bill Buckner, his name adds up to 46, just like I talked about the other ones. His real name is William Joseph Buckner, which adds up to 91. Interesting. I also don't know if I ever showed these. So the Cubs finished 7-4 against the Mets this year. 7-4 adds up to 54. Pope Francis is the 266th Pope. 266 is 45. The word 86, like I was talking about, the curse of the Bambino. 86 adds up to 54. Hoverboard, just some random ones. Curse of the Bambino adds up to 176, just like Back to the Future. And Michael J. Fox, I mean, it's so coded for the Cubs. There's got to be another reason. There's got to be a real reason why they lost. That's what I'm trying to figure out here. But Michael J. Fox, 106 and 52. I mean, I didn't think they were going to win it all because of Back to the Future, because too many people knew about Back to the Future. It was a big deal. So no way they were going to actually let them win. But I really thought they were going to let them make the World Series. So just makes me question my thoughts on it because of the mirror thing in Kansas City. And, you know, it is the 111th World Series. New York adds up to 111. I mean, my original prediction was the Mets. But, sorry, it's so unorganized. I thought of a lot of this at work today. 10-6, the day of the Curse of the Billy Goat. There's also 86 days left until the end of the year. Also, the 239th year of the United States began on 7-4 this year. I said I think the World Series might end on this day, 11-3. And it's a span of 122 days. Like I said, 122 is also May 2nd, 5-2, and the 52nd prime is 239. Anyway, I think I need to go back and rewatch Back to the Future 2 and also Part 3, because if they are actually really coding this with Back to the Future, I mean, when he goes to 2015, that's literally like the very beginning of the second movie. So you have the rest of the movie and also Part 3 to go back and research. But, yep, going to leave it at that. Like I said, do some more research or whatever, and have a good night.